But then, one day after returning from a day of work, they found Anna. And well, to put it bluntly, she'd been shot in the back of the head by their own guns. The disciples may not have been the top of the class, but it was obvious to both of them that this was a setup. Apparently Anna had thought of me off and on over the last few years too, because the brothers had it in their heads that I was the smartest guy around. They'd come to me to figure out what was going on. I decided to help them out, more for Anna's sake than theirs, and it didn't take long for me to find out that they were telling the truth about Anna's death. But I wasn't sure whether I believed them or not on the point of their innocence. Yet I decided to help. For a couple days I took off work, and I tried to figure out this whole mess. I was fairly sure one of them was the culprit, but both insisted on the innocence of not only themselves, but their counterpart as well. Finally, I let it go. They had more faith in each other than I'd ever had in anything, or anyone. And besides, I didn't have any idea which one I thought it might be yet. I also took the liberty of setting them up in an old abandoned building I knew of, somewhere they'd be able to hide out until the authorities caught their trail. Or until I set the authorities after them. After the first couple days of nothing, I finally caught a trail of my own, but surprisingly it led me away from the disciples. The answer had to be that there was another fool mixed up in this mess. I just couldn't see how until it was too late. I called the disciples once I'd put the pieces together, and I told them to leave the hideout and meet me at their place. And that's when I was attacked by Humphrey Bogart. As I fought him off, I began to feel as though he were trying to flee rather than fight, and so I let him. As he ran out the door, I used my phone to snap a picture, catching the back of his trench coat and fedora as he fled. I sent that photo to the brothers, letting him know I had, to a certain extent, made this man as the killer. I should have made sure he was gone. I should have chased him, seen which way he went. Anything but turn my back. I barely even got the message sent before I was being wrestled to the ground from behind. Then the cloth. I'd heard of chloroform, but I never quite understood the stuff. In a matter of seconds I was out, like a light. I awoke in a dark room. I took a few seconds to get my bearings and tried to stand, but couldn't. I also tried to talk, but found my mouth was sealed by duct tape. I took the liberty of looking around, and to my surprise, I recognized this room. This was the hideout. A rush of rage as I realized what must have happened. The disciples had played me for the fool I was. But then something else was off. I was in Bogart's clothes. This puzzled me, but not for long. I soon heard the sound of the brothers' van pulling up hurriedly a ways away. And that's when it hit me. This whole thing. Everything was a setup, and I was just the icing on the cake. I was dressed at Bogart, and Bogart had my phone. He was playing us all. He must have texted the disciples that he was here, playing as if he were me, hiding from him, unable to make a voice call. They'd come back to help me out, and of course extract revenge. And I don't blame them, but I'd rather they had waited until I wasn't dressed like this with my back. The back they'd recognized from the photo I sent, towards the door they were about to walk through. It wasn't hard to imagine what had to happen next. They say your life flashes before your eyes as you die. They say everything's 20/20 in retrospect. They say everything happens for a reason.